Hello Chattahooligan friends, this is Dana from your Tailgate Crew. This week we're playing Detroit City Football Club in Detroit, and sometimes our crew will take the week off when we have an away game, but this week we thought we'd do something a little special. Instead of just sitting at home drinking a lukewarm Faygo and ordering takeout from Jet's Pizza, we thought we'd show our Detroit friends how to make a homemade pizza. So this week I'll be showing you how to make the crispy cheesy crust pizza from King Arthur Flour, which is one of my favorites. It is a thicker crust pizza. You won't need a lot of specialized equipment. All you need really is a cast iron skillet, and if you don't have a cast iron skillet in your home, you really should buy one. The only other things you need are the ingredients. It's just, the crust is just flour, yeast, salt, a little bit of olive oil, some water, and then the toppings can really be whatever you want, but they're gonna have a lot of cheese. So make your shopping list and give yourself 2 days. You want to make the crust a day ahead of time and set aside about an hour to work on it because there is some kneading involved, but mostly it's just letting it rest. And then on Saturday, you'll actually compose the pizza, stretch out the crust, put the toppings on, and bake it. So I'll be showing you step by step how to make it. Have fun. Okay, forgive my terrible camera angle. I'm no good at this. But let's go ahead and make the pizza crust. So the first thing you want to do is measure out your flour. It calls for 2 cups or 240 grams. And you're just gonna scoop flour in there until you get to 240 grams. And I think you'll find if you bake a lot that you'll be a little more accurate with measurements in weight rather than cups. So put that in your mixer. If you don't have a stand mixer, it's perfectly fine. This mixes up really easily by hand. It's not a huge dough. It's not super stiff, so you won't have any trouble mixing it. Now, the next thing you want to have in there is salt. So you're doing about 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. That's about 3/4. And you can eyeball that, or you can measure it precisely if that's your thing. Your next ingredient is going to be your yeast. And that is just 1/2 teaspoon of yeast. And if you can't find yeast in your grocery store here locally in Chattanooga, I think you can still get it from Need Loves, but I think most grocery stores have it back in stock. Same thing for bread flour. And about 3/4 of a cup of lukewarm water. In the summertime, you're not gonna get really, really cold water out of your faucet here in Chattanooga. So put your 3/4 of a cup in. But you'll notice that I filled my Pyrex with about a full cup because it kind of depends on atmospheric conditions, how much humidity's in the air. And then you just turn your mixer on. You don't want to go too high and just stir it together. Take a look at it, make sure it's not too dry. I would say this can use just a little bit more water. There we go. There we go. So it should kind of pull together, but still look kind of shaggy. So at that point, you are, for the moment, all finished because it has to rest and get reworked several times before you set it aside for the day. So you should be doing all of this prep work on Friday for Saturday's pizza. And one nice thing about making your dough a day ahead of time is it has time to develop more flavor as it rests, which is really nice. You get that good, rich yeast dough flavor. So once you've got it together, go ahead, kind of shape it into a ball, because you're gonna need it to be in a ball. And then you just cover your bowl with some saran wrap. And let it rest for 5 minutes. Okay, we've waited 5 minutes and it's just sitting here under the saran wrap resting. Nothing's been done to it, except I realized after I'd finished that I'd forgotten to put the olive oil in, but you're going to do it perfectly when you do it because you're Chattahooligans and you care about doing things right. You're not sitting in a post-industrial wasteland waiting for the haze of Malort to wear off while you sip Faygo and wait for delivery pizza. So what you're gonna do now is you're gonna just stretch this dough 4 times. So there's a great video on quinoa flour on the recipe link, which will be included here, where you can actually watch someone doing this well. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a scraper and you're gonna go down under the dough and you're gonna pull it up and over. And then you're gonna turn the bowl 90 degrees under the dough, stretch it up and over. 90 degrees, up and over. 90 degrees, up and over. So, cover it back up. With the folding process, you're gonna wait 5 minutes between each fold, and you're only gonna do that stretching up and over motion 4 times each time you do it. So 5 minutes, 4 folds, 5 minutes, 4 folds, and you'll repeat that 4 total times. Okay, now that you've done your 4th fold, you're gonna notice that the dough looks a lot smoother. The texture is gonna be almost silky. It's gonna be a lot more elastic, a lot less shaggy, and just really smooth. So what you're gonna do, I put it in a smaller bowl so it'll fit in my fridge, is you're just gonna cover it up and you're gonna let it rest at room temperature for 40 minutes. And after the 40 minutes, you just put it in your fridge and leave it overnight until tomorrow when you're ready to press it out into the pan and make your pizza. So I'll see you tomorrow. So I'm working really hard on my pizza dough right now. Just making sure that it turns out as good as possible. Hey there, we're ready to work on our dough. It's day 2. So about 3 to 4 hours before you're ready to eat, you want to go ahead and do this process. So you'll take your dough out of the out of the fridge, and it's still going to be covered. And when you uncover it, you're going to see that it's really grown a lot in size. It should be nearly double in size. And if you've given it at least 12 hours, that'll be plenty of rise time, and it will develop a lot of flavor just from the action of the yeast. So once you've done that, you need to prepare your pans. You want to go ahead and add to your cast iron skillet, whether you decide on the 10-inch or the 12-inch skillet, you want to go ahead and put in about a tablespoon of oil. And I'm using olive oil so that it'll taste nice and Italian-y. It actually calls for about a tablespoon and a half. And I'm just gonna eyeball that. What you're doing is you're coating your pan with oil so that nothing sticks and so that you get a crispy crust, and you're gonna coat your dough with oil as well. So once you've got that in there, you just wanna make sure that your whole pan is coated. You can use your very clean hands to do that. Just make sure that your sides are really coated with oil, and that the corner where the side meets the base is nicely coated. And it'll still be puddling a little bit in the bottom because you're gonna put your dough in there. And look how when you turn it out, this comes loose. And you're gonna put it in there and you're gonna flip it over so that you've coated both. So once you've got that as stretched out as it's going to be, just with your fingertips, just let it sit at room temperature for 15 minutes, just like this. And it'll probably contract a little bit over that 15 minutes, but it'll also rise just a little bit more as it warms up. And when you uncover it and stretch it back out a second time, it'll really stay the size you want it to be. I've pressed out my dough and it's been sitting for 15 minutes. And it's been covered with a meticulously clean towel. So you want to look at it. It should be nice and soft looking, have a nice coating of oil on it. And you want to stretch it out one more time. And this time it should hold its shape a lot better and stick to the edges a little better. And you want to use your fingertips just to make sure that it's kind of even thickness all the way around. You don't want to have super thick spots and super thin spots. So as you're pressing it out to the edges of the pan, just make sure that it all feels pretty even thickness. What we're gonna do now is cover it up, and you can either cover it up with your saran wrap or with a clean towel, but just cover it with something that doesn't touch the surface and let it rest for 2 hours. During that 2 hours, what you can do is prepare your toppings. We talked yesterday about how I like all of my toppings to be cooked ahead of time, except for pepperoni, which doesn't have to be pre-cooked. But all my vegetable toppings, I like to saute ahead of time. So during this 2 hours, I'll saute my peppers and onions, which is what I'll put on, probably mushrooms. I don't know, I'll decide if I want mushrooms. And set those aside, let them cool down to room temperature. When you saute your veggies, chop them up into bite-sized pieces. You don't want big chunks that'll come off while you're eating. Put a little salt and pepper on them in the skillet, saute them in olive oil until they're nice and soft and cooked the way you like them. So during this 2 hours, you can prepare all your toppings. But right now, all it's gonna do is rest. While you're letting your dough rest, you can also take a nap on top of a box of your grandmother's china. If such an opportunity arises. Graves, say hi. Your pizza dough is rested and it's ready to put the toppings on. Before you do this, you need to preheat your oven to 450 degrees, which is really hot, but it's gonna work great. Now, when you uncover your pizza dough, it's gonna look really amazing. And it's gonna have a sheen to it, which, ooh, this lighting's not the best there. And it's gonna be really soft and kind of pillowy looking. So, really gorgeous pizza dough ready to go. Now, this pizza recipe is not like every other pizza recipe. It starts off when you top it with a full layer of cheese on top of the crust before you put down your sauce. So you're putting about a cup of freshly shredded mozzarella cheese directly onto the dough. So no sauce yet. The sauce goes on top of that. And this is a weird pizza. It's definitely not a Chicago style. It's definitely not a New York style. I mean, it's not a Detroit style, although if you do want to ruin things the way Detroit ruins everything, you could make this pizza in a square pan. But yeah, go ahead and put down a full layer of mozzarella cheese. And then you're gonna put down your sauce. I've just got a jarred sauce here because I was in no mood to cook a whole pan of homemade pizza sauce, and I think that pizza sauce from a jar is pretty gross, so I did an arrabbiata sauce, which is just kind of a spicy red sauce. But the next thing you do is you put down your second layer of cheese. And you won't have as much cheese on top as you do underneath because it's really important to kind of seal the crust with the cheese underneath. And then I am gonna put some Parmesan on top as well because I think it adds really fabulous flavor. And this is actually some Parmesan and some Asiago that I had shredded together. And it also kind of makes a nice layer on top of your sauce. So there's that. And then your toppings. So I've got some sauteed veggies. What I have here is sauteed mushrooms, red bell peppers, Vidalia onions, and then a slightly unusual pizza topping, which is poblano peppers. I'm gonna use some salami, which I really like on pizza. And you'll notice I cut my salami pieces and my pepperoni pieces in half. So pepperoni and salami. I mean, you can do ham, you can do ground beef, you can do Italian sausage, anything you like. You can do this with barbecue sauce and chicken and cheddar cheese. But the crust process is really the fun part that sets this pizza apart from your normal pizza. It's just a really delicious, crispy crust. Okay, so that's my pizza topped. You're gonna put this on the bottom rack at 450 for 18 to 20 minutes and keep an eye on it in those last few minutes because oven temperatures vary, so your oven may cook a little quicker or a little slower. Okay, now you're probably gonna get to watch me injure myself. So here's my pizza. It's gorgeous, it's ready to eat. And the last thing I wanna do is cut my pizza in my cast iron skillet because cast iron skillets that are seasoned this beautifully are a treasure not to be monkeyed with. So I gotta get it out of the skillet onto the cutting board. So what you wanna do is you wanna go around the edges, make sure it's not sticking as much as possible. And then you're gonna wanna use a couple spatulas. Shift it onto your cutting board. Victory. But look at that pizza, isn't that gorgeous? Look at the thick sides, very nice. And that burnt crispy cheese, which I love on the edges. And then you're gonna wanna let it sit for a few minutes to cool down and let the cheese just solidify a little bit before you try to cut it. Otherwise, you're going to end up with cheese everywhere. Okay, friends, moment of truth. I've let it cool down for about 8 minutes just so that everything can solidify, and it's time to cut it. If you've never bothered to invest in a really good set of knives, I highly recommend it. I've had these for about 15 years, and they are fantastic. They make everything easier. So yeah, there is our gorgeous, cheesy, crispy crust pizza. We are ready to watch the game. Go CFC. If you want to see your tailgate crew continue to do more things like we've done in the past and hopefully host you all and feed you really good food for the next few years, go buy some merch. Good night.